America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you for those that came out on this rainy night. Not me. We don't have a big agenda tonight. I'm glad you're here. Are there any public comments on agenda items before we get to them? All right. You've all read the minutes.
I'll make a motion that we accept the regular minutes of October 7th and the special meeting minutes of October 11th.
Moved and seconded that we accept the minutes as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Treasurer's report.
Move that we accept the treasurer's report as provided.
You have a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the treasurer's report as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Claims and payroll.
I'll make the motion that we accept claims and payrolls presented.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded that we accept claims and payroll as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Budget report for September. September?
You gotta catch up, boss.
Why do we have
September.
Why do we have September? Everybody have September?
Yes.
I think September's gone. I think we probably, we'll look at that and have that available for any of you that are dying to know. Sorry about that. I think that's a miscue. Mayor's report. So, having a busy month. John Lee turned in the HB 355 grant, over a month ago, right? Or about a month ago? For the road projects on Johnson and Blake Street, and it was awarded to the town. So, thank you, John Lee. Good work.
Great job.
Yeah, good. So that's gonna give us in the neighborhood of $100,000 to work on those roads. We have to get that contract signed by the end of December. Obviously, they're not gonna be working on the roads in December, so there will be a little flexibility in that for the cost of oil and asphalt. And not entirely sure, we'll do some negotiation on what kind of road we'll be building. Possibly that new process that they did out on the airport road, you can kind of get a little more bang for your buck with that, so we'll be looking at that possibility. As you know, initially we had applied for that grant to go to our first application was to go to the firehouse, and that got turned down just because they didn't allow any new building. So Tony's disappointed on that, I understand that. So we're looking at other places in the budget that we can do a renovation on the fire hall. It does need it, sheetrock's kind of falling off the ceiling in there. We've got a number of new recruits. I think they're up to, I don't know, a dozen guys right now, right in that neighborhood. So we want to keep their morale high. So we're looking for funding to help them to renovate and maybe build on as well. So I'm supposed to be meeting with Tony tomorrow, or later this week, to just go look at it again and decide when we're gonna actually start. We are gonna fix the sheetrock definitely in the big bay, and then we'll kind of take it chunk by chunk, different projects that we're looking at. Just along that avenue, there's a really cool LaFrance fire engine out in the old airplane hangar out there that I'm trying to talk Tony and the guys into cleaning up and getting running, and maybe park it out there with a shed over it where it can stay out of the weather, but it's kind of a parade driver. And anyway, Willie asked me about that today, because right now it's just kind of getting dumped on by the pigeons in that building, so that's something we're hoping to do maybe this winter. The town's been given a 90-day extension by IMEG, the planning engineer for the Llewellyn Street subdivision. Last week was kind of a busy week in trying to get that 90-day extension. Just you may have noticed a notice in the newspaper that we were supposed to have that a public hearing on Thursday at 7 o'clock. But last week, just recognizing the kind of work that we have to do, and actually that IMEG has to do, in putting together a staff report and just the planning that we need for that. We were advised by the Montana League of Cities and Towns, a couple of engineers, a couple of attorneys, that it might be wise to ask for a 90-day extension. So I kind of pulled the trigger on that, just thinking what we could use right now is more time to go into that with just a little more awareness and a better understanding of the ordinances that we have, so that we don't have any regrets on that, and gives you more information as to your voting on that subdivision. Again, we're shooting for a win-win. Having that subdivision be a good opportunity to have some more housing in town. It's a potential revenue at least down the road for the town, just in water and sewer service. But we want to take our time and make sure that we are getting it done right, and that there aren't any hang-ups with it. So I've got a couple of engineers working on that. The town is, I've talked to Kathy to see if we have the budget to actually hire a planning engineer that can kind of work on our side with that, alongside Sherry, our city engineer. I think it'll be worth the little bit of money up front to make sure that we have our interests best defended and protected on that subdivision as well. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to talk to me. We're going to actually have a planning board meeting Thursday anyway at 7 p.m. It won't be a public hearing, but the planning board will be talking about some of the plans that we're going to make. And that way we're here. If anybody shows up for that public hearing, we can talk with them at the time. We won't do a lot of presentation because we want IMEG to have the opportunity to have their engineers here too, as well as the developer to represent themselves. So that'll probably be coming in January, early January, after the holidays. So I'll give it some time to get ahead of it. The demolition of the old lagoon site is finished. Olympus did a good job removing the lagoon liners and the other outdated materials from the site. It looks clean out there. The lagoons are still there. There's just no plastic and no foreign materials in it. You can't change it because of the floodplain issues. They just like to have it left the way it is. So, but it does look clean out there. They did a good job, and for a good price. Clearwater Drilling is finishing up a new well just out of town on Upper Lynch. They said they'd be done sometime this week, probably tomorrow. I'm assuming they may be working out there tomorrow. Once that well is drilled and it's washed out, we still have, of course, to build a pump house and tie that into our present water system. That's obviously something that's going to be a next spring or summer job, and that Sherry will be primarily working on as our town engineer to make sure that that's looped into our water system. For those of you that don't know, the point of that new well is to, for one thing, help us with expansion for city water, but also that the two wells that we have since we dug the two new wells, we usually did it from the spring, Boyer? Is that right? Yeah, Boyer, spring. We dug two new wells in town, both of them put out a good volume, roughly around 400 gallons a minute. But they both run out of the same aquifer, about a 30 to 40 foot aquifer that kind of runs underneath this whole valley. This new well that we just drilled, you know what the exact depth of it is? Somewhere around 250. Okay, 260, 260 feet. So it actually dips into an entirely different aquifer. So if you ever did have a problem with the fouling of the water here or there, you've got backup. So that's part of the intent behind that. And then just to give us more water for fire suppression and summertime. It isn't in my report, but just as a heads up, we are looking at, I did meet with some landowners looking at potential new water tank sites. And that, again, that kind of 5-year project, that's something we are hoping to do once we get the elevation right. There's, we have to be up on the hill there somewhere because it has to be the same elevation as our present tank. Our present tank actually did get checked. I think I said this a month or two ago. It's in good shape, but it's old, and so we should start working on getting that new tank. And hopefully we can get grant money for that. But we can't even work on those grants until we actually purchase the land, so that's our first step on that. One of our public works employees quit about 2 weeks ago to take on another job. So the town right now is presently taking applications to fill that position. We're not in a big hurry to fill it. We want to make sure that we get the right person for that. So we're thinking about that, or if you know anybody that's looking for a job that has some experience and equipment and plumbing and such, get that word out. We've got about 6 applications right now. I think somebody came in, a couple of people might have got some today. So the more the merrier we have, just be a good group to look at. Parks and Recreation Committee met last Thursday. There are minutes in your packet. And they were just talking about the last summer, the good things that happened, the trees that were planted, the shrubs that were planted. There's some, talk about what to do with the horses that are out northwest end of the greenway. We don't want to carelessly take down the ones that are there, but they're kind of sickly. And so we're again looking at possibly a silhouette type horse thing there. There's some good ideas that went around in that meeting, and I believe, Becky, you were appointed to that meeting to be the chairman of that now. John, because he took the council position, wanted to pass that responsibility on to somebody else. So thank you, Becky, for that. Looking forward to your leadership there. Also, this summer, I think you all know, the pool had a drain field, and so we had a lot of problems with showers this summer, overflowing that drain field. So we actually tied that in last month, or about a little more than a month ago. We tied that into our sewer system. So that's a good win on that too. Had a good Parks and Rec, a good summer worker this year. Corey did a good job for us. I think our greenways and our parks are good. And thank you, Don and Kelly, for you guys have done on that too, for watering trees for a long time in the driveway. I think that's it for the mayor's report. Tony isn't here for a fire department report, but I kind of told you a little bit what's going on there. The police department, Brian's here. Good evening, Brian. Thanks for being here. Brian said I could read this because he doesn't need the public speaking experience. Calls for service in the month of October were 41 by the full-time, 8 by the reserves, total of 49. This says assert. What am I think I've been saying arrests.
Arrest.
Arrests made?
Is something spelled wrong?
Yeah, but it's been spelled wrong.
Oh, really?
The last,
I've been around.
the last
They
few,
failed me, apparently.
As long as I've been
the
around.
last few months, I'm just,
That was another way to say arrest.
I didn't know.
No, it's supposed to say arrest.
Oh, good.
There was one
Thanks
of,
for telling me now. I'm there.
I was just reading arrest because I thought that's what it meant, but I just thought, maybe I should ask. So there was one assert made, last one. Criminal and traffic citation is written for 31 by full-time, 12 by reserves, total 43. Citizen contacts, 11 by full-time, 3 by reserves, 14 total. Business bar checks, 26 by full-time, 6 by reserves, total of 32. Resident checks, 0 through the month. Other agency assists were 9 by the full-time officers and 3 by the reserves, total of 12. Reserve officer training hours was 8. Reserve officer volunteer and uniform hours, 8. Paid reserve officer hours, 66, including grant hours. So we did have a grant for our reserves. Is that run out now?
Yeah, it ended at the end of last month.
Okay. Well, thank you, Brian. Good work. There's nobody here representing our public works department. And if nobody has anything to say from the public works committee, there are minutes in your packet, but we'll be getting back to that when we get to new business. Unfinished business, wellness program. So this is something that we talked about. Was it last one? It seems like it was
A
long.
couple months
I think
ago.
it's been a couple of months. So we've revisited this once we've kind of done some research. The idea here was to make available to our city employees or full-time city employees an opportunity to have a fitness program that was kind of laid out for us by Becky and Warrior Fitness. Although this wellness program would be applicable if you wanted to use any gym in town that, such as the Slim Gym or whatever. The idea here is to pay up to half of their membership, and around $50 is a membership. There's prices, but I think between the two, that's kind of an average, about $50, and so the town would be willing to pay half of that, up to $25, if the person does up to at least 8 visits to the gym. So it's kind of a motivator that way. If you only do 7, you don't get paid. If you do 8, obviously that gives you 2 days a week if you go in. It's just a good motivator. And the actual cost of that probably for the town, depending upon how many participate, isn't going to be that much. And most of it will probably be $150 a month for the town. We'll get that back, I'm convinced, in just health and wellness and good attitudes and all the other things that come from that. Becky, you really want to say something with that?
Just might add that not only is it good for physical fitness, but mental.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The problem is I'm not a full-time employee, so I can't do it, but at least I can't get paid half. So I think it's probably well worth it as kind of a perk for our employees. Any thoughts on that?
I know we talked about it before, we were discussing how do we, if somebody said it was a Slim Jim, how do you know that they've done it 8 times?
Oh, I see.
Well, the Slim Jim would have to be willing to tell you if they came in 8 times, right?
I think if it came to that, we could just go on an honor system. And if we found that they were lying to us, well, whether they'd be in trouble. I think we could do that. If they can hold it on there. That would be my thought.
He's got that.
What think you about this?
I think it's a great idea. If they got strangled loose, they'll have less prone to injury.
Yeah.
That kind of system should work. They keep calling you from the yoga.
Oh.
So I'll take pictures. That's interesting.
Do we want to table this? Do we want to, I would entertain a motion to approve it or to kick it off of the agenda? Any thoughts?
I'll make a motion that we approve the loans program.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve the wellness program. Again, that'll be for whichever gym they want, up to $25 a month for their membership. Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We'll get started on that. Probably at least by December. And that's something, Chief, that you can share with your officers. I think they might be interested in that. And I'll also bring it up to the Public Works. New business, resolution to amend billing for water and wastewater hookup fees. Yeah, I'll just give, I think most of you are familiar with this. Some of you may not be as much as those who sit on the Public Works Committee. We're just looking at the fees that we have for hooking up water. So we realize that well, especially when we lost a Public Works person and we've had to hire a contractor to do it, we realized that we're actually losing money in those hookups. That just costs money to do it. And one of the things that was a problem is we had a reduced fee for multiples, but there's no reduced work or cost for multiples. So it was a good idea if you want to go broke as a town. So the Public Works Committee took a look at that. What we do, we're actually being very careful to try and be very accurate about the cost that it actually is to hook somebody up to water and sewer. And this isn't an opportunity for us to gain revenue. It's just an opportunity for us to hook people up to water and sewer and not lose money while we do it. So that's the impetus behind that. And you have kind of those figures laid out for you in your packet.
I'll make the motion that we adopt resolution 24-6.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt resolution number 246 for resetting the cost of water and sewer hookup. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Resolution passed. Actually, I'm sorry, let's go around and get a vocal vote on that, since it's a resolution.
Lana,
Yes.
John Dossett, Chad,
Yes.
John Rissler,
Yes.
John Sheridan,
Yes.
JD.
Yes.
Committee reports, there's none from the Administration Committee. Public Works Committee, do you have anything to report?
Public Works Committee met twice. We met on the 17th of October, and we discussed a few things, including the brush pile over here by the city shops, and the problem with people dumping brush, and the probability that that would lead to people leaving garbage there. We also discussed a couple of accounts, and then one residence that's looking at adding some asphalt out in front of their place and how that would impact their street. We also met on the 31st, and we talked about the pending resolution, which is now passed. And as the mayor talked about, we looked at what our table was at that time, and we were actually losing money by having multiple accounts or multiple hookups. We're giving people a deal, but the town is still incurring all of the same expenses if they were doing a single hookup. So we talked about amending or adopting a rate change to that resolution. And then we also had Greg Dickens, who was here from Public Works, and he was able to get with John Lee and amend the price of the materials and whatnot as far as those hookups go. I believe that is it.
Very good. Parks and Recreation Committee. You have anything you want to report? I kind of stole your thunder during the mayor's report, but we'll be ready next week or next month. I don't see any police commissioners here, and there was no meeting of the safety committee. By the way, when we say that, that's kind of a special committee meeting that we have with Tony Young. The Public Works and myself, Public Works employees, every Monday morning have a brief safety meeting once a week, and we talk about jobs for that week. So it's not like we're just being unsafe. Any public comment about anything?
Library update. Library. We had a fundraiser and we made almost $1,800. And I just fun stat we came across today. We've officially given out 163 library cards this year. And I thought that was really interesting. I don't know where they live, but they're coming. So our library services are definitely increasing all the time, more and more and more. Like, I mean, pre-pandemic, we'd be lucky if we were giving out 2 or 3 a month. Now it's 20, 30 a month. So it's crazy.
And something is hitting me now that we had talked about, or you had talked about possibly wanting to put, did we?
Yeah, we did.
You know what I'm like, yeah, putting you actually in committee reports rather than in public comment.
That'd be great.
So let's see if that happens. Can we remember that?
Okay,
This is something that we'll just,
okay.
see why we can't do that. That way, if we do have a lot of public comment, you don't have to try to cram it in there. Thank you, Nikki. I'm doing a good job there. If there's no other public comment, I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Have a good Monday.
Another record meeting.
Everybody voted, you haven't already.
I initially planned on hiding my house, on election day and after this in case, no, I'm driving to Happy with my brother, so hopefully there's no crazy stuff on either side now about however the election goes.
Safe travels.
Oh, right, it's fucking snow and all that.